morning, everybody. I'm Justin Charlton Jones. I'm one of the coaches behind the No Limits community, and I'm delighted to say that today we have as our guest Nigel Reeve. Nigel Reeve is part of MW, Marketing West, and is responsible for organising a large number of awards for businesses, and is going to talk to us today about how winning awards can help your business. So, Nigel, lovely to have you along today. Tell me a little bit, first of all, before we get into the detail, about what Marketing West do, because I think a lot of people are familiar with awards, and perhaps they occasionally see an email from someone with a badge in their signature line saying that they've won an award. Just give me a bit of background on sort of how awards work, who actually hands out awards, and what's your role in that whole process?
Okay. Well, I mean, to give you a little bit of the background, about it's 5 years ago now. No, I'll go back even further. My background is mainly commercial radio, and I worked for radio stations like LBC in London and Classic FM, the national station. And one of the things that I did when I was in that business was, for 5 or 6 years, I ran the Commercial Radio Creative Awards, which was a rather huge affair at the Grosvenor House in London with 1,200 people. And boy, did that teach you how to run awards. Anyhow, now going more to the current time, I got very fed up at the beginning, or just before lockdown happened, with negative coverage on media. And my belief was, and still is, that it damages local business confidence and was damaging businesses. So I thought, well, okay, is there anything I can do? And I thought, well, I'll try and put an awards on, a local, pure local, small area, nothing big, just one area. So I picked, down here in Dorset, I picked somewhere called Bridport, and it's about I don't know, 15,000 population, got a lot of very nice businesses, but nothing major, and tried it. And what actually happened is this thing took off. It exploded. People loved the idea. And so after that, we then went into lockdown. So things were on hold for a while. But then when that finished, somebody said, well, why don't you do one somewhere else? So I did one another somewhere else. And then somebody said, well, what about, you've forgotten us? No, do it over here. And it's grown and grown. And there's now 20 of them all around Dorset and surrounding areas. And so really from a career which was much more in broadcasting, and I've ended up putting on 20 awards each year across. So it's literally, you avoid school holidays, so you're literally doing one every 2 weeks, and that's really how I've got to where I am at the moment.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal number of awards, Nigel, and so I presume you've got in order to set up an award locally, you must have to have good links into chambers of commerce, or I don't know, how do you do it, because that's an awful lot of work for certainly for one person.
There's two of us. It's my wife and myself behind it. But yeah, I mean, the first thing you do is you go into an area and get to know the local chamber of commerce, and if they've got a local business improvement district set up, we get to know them, and they help us and give us some advice. And I mean, as an example, today, after this, I'm off to record 20 odd businesses in Sturminster, which has been set up by the Sturminster Newton Chamber of Commerce, or their equivalent. They call themselves something different, but yeah, you build that relationship and you get that set up, and then you take it from there. And they're always very, very keen to have something like this, because they haven't got to do any work, but we do it all. So they invite you in and get you in, and off you go. And that's exactly what I'm doing today.
Well, the fact that you've got 20 of these awards running in you know in small towns suggests, first of all, obviously, that they're very popular, but obviously they wouldn't remain popular if they weren't doing something for local businesses. So tell me about what the impact of these awards is, and in particular, what impact either entering or indeed winning an award can do for a business.
Well, I think from the I mean, I'll come to entries in a second, because there are some classic mistakes that people make, and but there's some
Mm.
that get it absolutely spot on. But the as far as the winners are concerned, I mean, I've got letters, emails, whatever, from people saying, I'm so pleased to have won this and what it's done for my business. It helps staff morale. It gets publicity out there. It gets people going in, and they get a very nice framed certificate they put in the window, and people walk past and realize that that's the business that won the award. So it does improve their business. There's no doubt about it. It improves staff morale, and it improves customer awareness and people going into their business.
That's great. And do you go, just out of interest? Do you actually go so far as to produce case studies? And obviously, you're getting this feedback anyway. But have you thought about, or do you provide case studies just demonstrating the impact literally on the bottom line, for example, that an award has had for some businesses?
Yeah, I mean, what we do is post awards, or actually during the awards, we actually record um, the award ceremony on video, and then publicize that, and then put that out quite heavily. We promote it big time, and what it's able to do is exactly what I was just saying. People start thinking, oh yeah, I've seen that video. I've seen, oh, they're the people that won that, and it really does. I've got percentages. I have to be a bit careful what I say, but they're admitting that their business has gone up by 20-30% when they've won an award, and
Yeah.
that's really what it's all about.
Okay. No, that's amazing, and I can imagine a lot of our members in No Limits would love to see that sort of effect on their own business. Um, but I think a lot of people have never entered an award. So let's go back to the point you made a moment ago, where you said that um, you see some howlers when people are trying to enter awards. And so for those people who've never entered an award, but who like the idea of what you're describing and the impact it could potentially have, what are the things then that they should or the pitfalls they should avoid in order to stand a half decent chance of winning something?
Yeah, it's quite a list. I mean, it's and this is not knocking what anyone does, but some of them are so, if I say, clear that you should really try and avoid them if possible. And I've just made some notes down here, just below where you can see where I've been writing things. And I had a case. I think it was 2 weeks ago now. As a prime example, somebody actually called the office and said, well, you've got all these awards and you have one called Young Entrepreneur, but you don't have an age limit on it. And that's not right. You should have, you must have, so that we're controlling the people who actually get put to the judges for that award. And you think to yourself, hang on a minute. We tell you to look at the guidelines, look at the judging guidelines, and we supply them for every single area, slightly adjusted for the area. And we want people to look at those. And I had people coming on complaining that we've never ever put an age limit on the young entrepreneur category, as an example.
Hmm.
Um, and yet it's been there for 2 to 3 years. But it shows that people don't actually look. And the first mistake that people make is they don't actually look at the guidelines that we put, and they ignore it. The second big mistake that we see is they think that they can write one entry, just one entry, and then enter 5 or 6 categories with that entry. And some of them, it's totally irrelevant, but they just think, there's a chance they might win. So entering our awards is free, but they think that they can, they try and just write one entry and then cut and paste it in for each of the various categories. And that, again, they might win the one that they've actually written it for, but the chances, if it's young entrepreneur and you're talking about your business, do you seriously think that's going to win that cap? But you'd be surprised how many people make those sorts of
Mm.
mistakes.
Yeah. And yes, and I have entered a number of awards in the past in previous businesses, and yes, I just want to endorse your sentiment there that generally in most awards, most awards, the guidelines provide the information on specifically what the judges are looking for, because the judges don't want to be reading a load of entries which are completely off script, because it's a waste of their time and it's a waste of the business owners. So yes, I would just endorse your comment there. Read the guidelines really thoroughly, because they will generally tell you what you need to include in your submission in order to stand a chance of winning.
Spot on, and we just see it so often. I mean, I've written down here, and I'll rattle through them in a minute. But some what I consider to be absolutely spot on tips as to what you should actually do. And if you stick to those, you'll win, because not many other people do.
Well,
So,
let's come on to those in a moment, Nigel. So what are the howlers though that you see that people should absolutely avoid before we get on to the things that are going to help them to win an award?
okay. I think um, the worst one we see, and I'm not making these up. These really do exist. We've had we had one about a year ago, and it's a very nice business, but all she wrote on the entry form was, it has, why do you believe you should win? And she just put, because we're the best. And that was it. That was her entry.
Well, that's astonishing self-belief.
Oh, I mean, the confidence is fantastic. And it was a good business. And it's a business that could well have won. But what she didn't do was try and treat it. She wasn't showing any passion. All she was saying is that's we are the best business, so we automatically should win it. We had another one actually about a month ago. Why should we win? We've been here for 25 years, so we deserve to win, and that's what they put. That's it. And this isn't meant to sound negative, but we're getting cases like that all the while, and you just wish people would just take a bit more time, give it the time it deserves, and you'll get the reward.
Yeah. Okay. So and I think that that sort of leads on to the obvious statement that if you want to win an award, you've got to make it really clear why you deserve to win the award. And it's not enough to just say, we're a fantastic business and we've been established in this location for 25 years. What have you actually done? Because I can think of some businesses that are 25 years old that I know of in my area, and frankly, they're hanging on by their fingernails. And a lot of people might think, well, actually, I don't know how you've managed to survive for 25 years.
Yeah, I think it's. I think there, obviously all businesses have good years and they have bad years, but it's really just a case of getting people to just show passion and show they care about their business. And one of the things that we put in the guidelines is try and highlight what you've done in the last 12 months. Don't just you put it as bullet points. Just in the last 12 months, our business, we have increased this, we have done this, we have done that. And it might only be 2 or 3 things, but put what you have achieved in your entry. Don't just say, we are a X, Y, and Z business. We've been here for 25 years. We get great feedback from our customers. If you get great feedback from your customers, get the customers to tell you that feedback and include it in your entry. Don't just say we get great feedback. Treat it like you're writing almost writing a newspaper article. and you write it and explain it all the way through. And if you take the time to do that, then your chances of winning are hugely increased. I mean, I'm quoting off the top of my head now, but we get per awards, we get something like 100, on average 150 per area.
Mm.
I get the job, I said earlier, of downloading them, and you can tell straight away. Let's just say, and I am making this up now, but let's say we have 10 entries per category. You can see the top 3 before they even go to the judges. And what I'd rather be seeing is the top 10 before they go to the judges.
Mm.
And it's those 3 that it always comes
Mm.
from one of those ends up being the winner.
Yeah. So taking those top 3 then, Nigel, if you could sort of, we talked about the things that will help you to win. What sets those top 3 apart from the other entries? What is it about the entry, the format, the content that makes them so obviously sort of better than the other entries?
Okay. I'm going to have to look at my notes now because I mean, there's quite a right. The first thing, and you might say, well, what's this got to do with an entry? But when you write it, don't send it in straight away. You can tell the ones that have then asked a couple of their team to come and read it, or that they've walked away for a couple of hours and go back and read it. And I'll guarantee you will always think of something extra that should have been included. So that when people take that time and effort, you can see it in the entry. When they make that effort to make it that little bit different. In the same way, check for things like typos and the grammar. It's not, with things like Grammarly at the moment, it's not hard to do that. And you know, you can actually see, you know, when there was starting sentences with in lowercase and silly little things like that, but the judges don't like that. It shows they've been sloppy in what they're doing, so it reflects in what they think. Well, if they're sloppy with their entry, they must be sloppy with their business. You know, it's that entry is really a reflection of your business, and that's what it should be. I'm making it sound actually much harder. You know, it's just a case of showing passion. Treat it like an essay. You know, start with, you know, the history, go into what you're achieving now, and then get comments from customers saying how good it is. I guarantee you, you're in with the top 3 entry if you do that.
Fantastic. Okay. So I think you mentioned customer comments previously. Is it a good idea to put if you've got reviews and testimonials from your customers speaking highly of you, is it a good idea to include those in awards?
Yeah, very much. I mean I mean, one other thing to watch out for, and people don't understand it, is what we actually have. We give people an option to either enter their business, or their customers can actually recommend them.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, you know, we have winners that have come from customer recommendations, but what we just say to people, firstly, people make one mistake. They think when they enter an awards, it's if you've got this thing like recommendations, it's the number of recommendations you get that will win you. And we've had one awards where we got 450 recommendations coming in for one business, but actually they weren't saying anything. That business just assumed they'd win because they got 450 recommendations. They didn't actually win because none of them said anything. So it's taking that time to just say, I'm recommending this business for X, Y, and Z, and then the business itself copies that recommendation and puts it in its entry. Then you're on a winning run.
Okay, it sounds very much to me as though that particular business had perhaps encouraged their customers to write in and nominate them, but because they were being asked to do it, they weren't doing it themselves spontaneously.
Hmm.
out of their genuine sort of love for the business, but because they'd been asked to. And so there wasn't that spontaneous, enthusiastic um, content
Yeah.
within the nomination that you would get from a genuine customer who was so impressed that they actually wanted to take the time out to write a review.
Needed my tea then for a moment. Yeah, I think you're spot on. And it's putting the customer comments into your entry. It's making your entry flow like an essay. Exactly what I'm saying. These are just some of the notes I've made. It's showing passion. It's getting a colleague to read your entry because they'll suggest something that you haven't thought of. Have that slight break before you decide to put the entry in. Read it again and read it again because you'll spot things that you've missed.
Mm.
Show you want to win. I've written down here, and write an entry to fit the category. That's the other one, where people will write an entry and then put it into 5 different categories.
Yeah. It's a little bit of, it's like applying for jobs. I'm sure I've certainly seen this many times in the past where you advertise for a role and you get a standard cover letter that is completely irrelevant to the role that you're recruiting for, but because they've gone to the trouble of writing a cover letter and they can't be bothered to tailor it to the individual roles that they might be submitting their CV for, they just send off the standard one, and that immediately makes you think, well, I'm sorry, you're actually not that interested in this role because you haven't gone to the effort of trying to work out why you should be considered for this specific role and the responsibilities required. All you've done is send me the standard letter that you wrote once and goodness knows how long ago.
I mean, I'd say spot on that with that. I mean, yeah, my point here is write the entry to fit the category. Don't just produce an entry form, exactly what you're saying, and put it in for 12 different categories because you'll show up straight away. And yeah, it's just show you want to win, just show you care.
Excuse me. And do you find you get serial sort of award enterers after time? Because I know in Action Coach we encourage our clients to enter awards because, as you said at the very beginning of this conversation, it does amazing things for your business. And certainly in our experience, we find that once a company has entered an award, even perhaps if they haven't won it, but they might just have been shortlisted, but just the mere fact that they've been shortlisted and they've received that level of recognition, they then become almost addicted to them. They say, right, next year we're going to do even better. We're going to win the award, and then once they've won the award, well, they don't want somebody else to win it the following year, and so they become absolutely passionate about entering awards because they love the recognition that it creates for them and their team, but also obviously the impact that it has on their business. I think we had a conference in Action Coach last year where we specifically talked about awards, and one of the coaches makes a point of entering as many of his clients as possible for awards, and he has one company who on the back of the awards that they have entered over the last 5 years have grown their business by hundreds and hundreds of percent in terms of turnover because of the credibility that the awards they've won have given to them.
Well, I think something that went right through my mind while you were saying exactly that. A perfect example is last Thursday, or just going back slightly, what we do with our awards is instead of having a trophy, we actually have a very nice framed certificate saying, winner or runner-up or whatever it may be. And last Thursday we held the Bridport Business Awards, which happens to be the place where we held the first ever awards. And the awards ceremony was right in the town centre at the town hall, and it was surrounded by shops. And as we left, in the window of the shop next door was their trophy because they just won an award. And as the people were coming out there saying, "Oh, look, there it is. Oh, yeah, they're the ones that just went up and got that award, aren't they?" And that's what it's all about. It's getting that profile and building it. And it was just so funny. You know, they literally come down the stairs from the town hall, out of the town hall. Their premises were about 20 yards away, gone into the window and put it there. And it just made me smile because they were actually using it the way it should. They were promoting what they just achieved.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And have you got any advice or anything to say to people? Because I know some companies will think there are a lot of awards out there that we can enter, but surely hundreds of people enter these awards. The likelihood of me winning is actually pretty low, and the effort required to stand a chance is enormous. So you know, is it worth my while actually making that effort to enter an award which I may not stand a chance of winning because there are so many other people now who are looking to use awards to promote themselves?
Yeah, I think the way I would answer that is, firstly, you've got to be in it to win it. So although it is harder, the bigger the awards, I get that completely. But, and I would say this, but I really mean it. You know, start small, grow, really expect. You know, so I'd recommend, if I was opening up a business now in any of the towns in Dorset, I would enter these awards, because in these awards, when you've got 15 categories, so 10 entries per category, you've got to be in with a good chance of winning. And then you stick to the rules. These are the sort of things that are in our guidelines that I've just been going through. Really stick to that, and you've got a very good chance. You know, as I say, I see the entries, and if we've got 15 entries, let's say, I reckon I can spot the 4 that will come in the top 4 places. I put money on it, and I have nothing to do with the judging, I'm pleased to say. So I can say this with a very clear conscience. I can tell that 4. So anybody that's entering are in really with a 25% chance of actually getting that award.
Yeah.
And rather than go for the big awards at the start, grow it and grow it. You know, work your way through the leagues.
Yes.
And if you think of it that way, then you're in with a good chance, and then you grow and you keep growing and growing. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. No, that's a great point, Nigel. So anyway, I'm conscious that we're close to the end of the half hour. So I'm going to summarize, if I can, the points that you've made, and please feel free to mention any others which I've forgotten. But yeah, in terms of entering awards and trying to and standing a chance of winning, first of all, read the guidelines. And I'll say that a second time. Read the guidelines, because they are actually the clues that have been put there by the judges to help you to enter the award correctly, and they contain they tell you what the information is that is needed for you to win the award. Evidence. Don't just say we're brilliant. Provide evidence of why you think you should win the award. And if you've got customer reviews, include those in your entry. Passion. Show passion for your business. Show that you want to win it. Don't submit it as soon as you've written it. Give it to your colleagues, friends, anybody who you think might be able to help you, get them to read it through, evaluate it, and then go back and make the amendments that might be required. Write an entry to fit the category. So make sure that your entry is tailored to the award that you're actually entering for. And then finally, make sure you check for grammar and typos before you finally press the send button. Good.
Spot on.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Nigel, for coming along today and talking to us about your awards. I have to say, I'm going to go and start looking up the Bridport Awards. I'm fascinated to see what's been going on there, and see the winners of the latest awards that you've just held. But thank you for your time, and thank you for all this advice, because as you said at the very beginning, this is a fantastic way of promoting your business and generating growth in your business, and more people should be doing this if they can.
Yeah, all I'd add to that, and thank you, Justin. But what I'd just say is, if you get a chance, just go to the Marketing West website, which is marketingwest.co.uk. Click on awards, and you've got a list going down of each of the awards. They all have their separate website within it, and you can look at the ones that you're interested in, because they'll definitely, it's worth it. Next one coming up is Bournemouth, incidentally, which is next Thursday.
Right. Well, good luck with that. It sounds like you're on a bit of a roller coaster with the frequency with which these ceremonies come around now. But yeah, it's been great hearing from you, Nigel, and thank you very much for the advice that you've given to our members.
Pleasure. Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody.